Welcome to part 3 in this module, these series of videos. We've got 4 absolute bangers coming up for you. Mr. Darcy Smythe is going to unleash his true smart thingies.
His smart things. I think we've scared away all the Americans that are going to be watching this when we've just said, here come 4 absolute bangers.
Yeah, true. Okay, just a bit of context around that for our Americans.
A banger is a good thing.
Yeah. It's like, wow, you're going to be blown away by how good this content is. Anyway, bit of fun. But part 3, so the next 4 videos, it's about picking your winning strategy. I'd like you to pay attention before we throw over to Das, and mate, take it away. This is your genius. I want you to pay attention to the word picking here. It's very deliberate that we've called this picking your winning strategy. Just keep this in mind when we share the next 4, because it's quite interesting when you have that as an overarching context. You are in control of this. So, Das, first sort of observations we've made is you have a potential strategy of dominance. So take it away.
Thank you. So this is super important. It's super important right now that you take this one lesson before we go through these 4 things. And there's this. Please understand that these are strategies. They are not who you are. Okay. So most people will see one of these next 4 and they go, oh, that's me. I'm the dominant one, or I'm the collaborator, which is another one that comes next. And yes, that may be true. Yes, that may be your default way of operating. But this is a thing, when it comes to slotting yourself into categories of personality or playing style or anything like this, what you essentially are costing yourself is the ability to adapt. And you will be far more successful in business, in playing the game, in life, in relationships, not by your ability to know exactly who you are right now, because who you are right now is going to be different tomorrow. It will be. You're a different person tomorrow to what you are today. Okay. The key is how flexible and adaptable am I? That is the thing that will help you grow most. Evolution teaches us that day in, day out. It's who can be most flexible and adaptive will survive. Okay. So the key we want to look at this and thrive ultimately in the business world is the way you want to look at that. So as we run through these, please understand these are strategies, not personality profiles or types. Although particular people will use different ones over others. First one's dominance. Okay. So essentially we want to understand that there's a pro and a con for every single one of these. Everyone has their reward and everyone has their cost, so to speak. Okay. So when we look at playing the game dominantly, essentially what we are saying is we are the one in the room that is going to call all the shots. And that's how I'm going to make my influence. That's how I'm going to make my money. That's what dominance is. That's what I decide goes. Okay. Now, if that's the case, when we imagine dominance, we typically imagine, usually it's a male archetype that we imagine dominating, like that's that typical masculine energy, so to speak, but it most certainly does not have to be. And actually we've found in playing the sales game a couple of times now that hasn't been the case at all. Actually, there's brilliant dominant female players and like dominant in personality. So here's the thing. When we imagine dominance, we do imagine someone ruling with an iron fist. But remember, we define dominance as what I want to happen is going to happen. Whether that means you stand at the front of the room and push people around until they do what you want them to do, or you go about it, shall we say, more covertly or passively, that in itself is still a form of dominance. When you imagine yourself at a party, Steve, there's 2 types of people that can be super confident and in a form dominant in that. There's the person standing up, getting all of the significance, getting all the attention on them, making sure everyone's paying attention to them and what they're saying. That's one form of dominance. The other form of dominance is the person in the room that just sits back in the couch, confident in themselves and doesn't have to say a damn word. And you also can't take your eyes off them. Makes sense? So dominance doesn't have to be ruling with an iron fist. Dominance, as a strategy to you, essentially says, okay, I'm going into this room and my strategy for playing here is what I want to happen will happen no matter what. How I do that is up to me being flexible and adaptable in how I do that. But there are many people who will enter the sales game and to life. And that's not part of their strategy. They do not see a strategy to life as how I want it to be is how it will be. That's totally fine. It's only a strategy. I would suggest, Steve, probably we're going to break this down to 4. So I'm going to just take a wild guess. It's probably a strategy for around about 25 to 40% of people, right?
Yeah. And probably is appropriate, and maybe even is appropriate 25% of the time.
Totally. There you go.
I mean, like sometimes it's better to not dominate.
Yes, that's it. Okay. So dominance also refers to the fact that you know what you want and you will stop at nothing to get it.
I think that's a key distinction.
Yeah.
Dude. I'd love to go deep on that because I think that the wanting nature is a critical part. Yeah.
Totally. So, what's his name? Napoleon Hill, when he wrote Think and Grow Rich. A good book. I haven't read it in ages, but I do remember one of the things he said was you don't just need a desire for what you want. You need a burning desire. It needs to be burnt within you that you want this to succeed and that you want this to happen. And when you have a burning desire for something, it's very difficult for someone to take that desire away from you. It'd almost be like taking away your left leg, like it means a lot to you. You're going to need that, right? So understanding what it is you want and understanding that you'll stop at nothing to get it, that's the key. How you get it is where you become adaptive and flexible. Okay?
I love that. I love that.
Now, what is the con of dominance? Like those are all very good things about dominance, knowing what you want, stopping at nothing till you get it, but being adaptive and flexible within it too it's just brilliant. It's a nice ecosystem of psychology. What's the con to it? Quite often, in order to get what you want, there will be people standing in your way. Mm-hmm. And it is very difficult as a human being, unless you are shall we say, a sociopath that is extremely good at reading human emotion and tweaking it and manipulating it to suit you. Like that skill is fortunately reserved for only a small part of society.
Yeah, for sure.
Chances are you're going to annoy some people along the way, right? You're going to turn some people off. You're probably going to create enemies. And depending on your ability to handle the emotion of rejection and the emotion of a little bit of loneliness that's going to go with dominance. Because remember, dominance, there's only one person at the top and it has to be you. So depending on your ability to deal with the fact that rejection and loneliness are part of the dominance strategy will probably determine how far you'll go with it. That's the cost.
Yeah. I think it's quite interesting as well. Like I'm just looking up the etymology of dominance as well to see if we can get a little bit insights into the word. Word kind of came around in the mid 1700s. It was French and it was related to dominancy. Mm-hmm. But there's a key word here that I really think it may be a key lesson for us of where maybe dominance can be used effectively and appropriately, or where it can turn in on itself and turn into a dictatorship and misery. Is there's this key word that they used, or essentially a meaning of it, which was ascendancy.
Okay.
I think there's a bit of a lesson in that ascendancy. I think when you're saying that dominance is about knowing really what you want and going after it with this burning desire and will stop at nothing, I think that's the appropriate use of dominance, because it's essentially that ascendancy. It's essentially my aim is high, it's above myself, it's out of myself, and I will stop at nothing to achieve it. It's kind of then people will follow you. I think where people maybe get dominance wrong is they turn it in on themselves, and their strategy of dominance is to make themselves dominant. They don't actually know what they want. They just know that I'm going to have control here. But when they get pressed on, okay, well, what do you actually want to do? They don't actually know. It's just more like, I'm going to be dominant.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yes. I think there's a lesson in that. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm thinking that there is a key word here when you spoke about the etymology. And I don't know whether this applies or not, but I'm sure etymologically it would, which is, I hope etymologically is a word I've just made up, because that is a brilliant word, by the way.
I like the sound of it. Yeah.
The word domino, like, dominoes, the things that you play with, dominoes. When people talk about the domino effect, you can see how that very much correlates to the idea of ascendancy. You know, if you set up a long line of dominoes, the domino effect is when you knock one, the rest of them ascend all the way up until the cycle is done. And let's apply that domino effect. Man, this is getting deep, but the correlation is there, right? So you have a domino effect that can go one of two ways. Domino is I knock the first tile and they go all the way up the line, and you have a domino effect that way. That is being dominant for a bigger cause, because you start at the first tile, but you end at the last one, which is nowhere near the first. Okay. The other domino effect is that you hit the first domino and it just goes around in circles, like it curls back in on itself. Okay. And so the domino effect would essentially result in, if I knock the first tile, it's all coming back to me. And that's painful, because what you set off on the first thing is going to come back around to you and hit you in your own guts by the time you're done. So dominance, that's a far stretch, but I can see the pattern there. So dominance ultimately is a question of, are you being dominant for the sake of, again, Steve, the pattern is coming out. Is it about something bigger than yourself and something outside of yourself? Is it pointing to others and ascending away from you for the sake of the greater good? Or is it dominance for the sake of dominance, which just curls back in on itself and you end up being dominant over yourself, which essentially makes you a tyrant over yourself, which is not healthy.
Yeah.
Simply not healthy. It's no one wins. No one wins, although you feel more dominant over yourself.
I think it's really, really cool. I think there's something in that. I think there's that ascendancy. I think that's
yeah.
That's a cool part of it. Like I've even got the mental picture of, like, you know, if you hit the domino effect, cause someone to do something and it ripples.
Yeah.
Which it will. You have the power to create ripples. But you have it dominoes in a circle nature, and it comes back around to the person that fell. All it's going to do is have weight on top of you. You know what I mean? Like,
well said.
Like a metaphor of it, rather than being a ripple, knowing what you want. The aim is outside of yourself. It's ascendancy. It's appropriate. It's good. And you're like, I know what we want. Let's do it. I'll stop at nothing to achieve. You start the ripple. You guide people through it, but it's pointing to the destination. You know?
That's it.
I think that's a really, really good way, because I suppose I just wanted a healthy weight of responsibility around dominance, because I don't want people to hear this and go, okay, it's a strategy I can pick, and I'm going to be dominant for the sake of just being dominant and to master and control and have ownership of a situation without actually knowing what you want clearly outside of yourself, you know?
Yeah, nice. Well said. I think it's like, do you want to dominate, or do you want a particular ethos in the world to dominate?
Yeah.
So we have the ethos that we believe all learning should be done through games. That is something we want to dominate the thinking of adult learners. But if we want to dominate, me and you, we want to dominate just for the sake of domination, then all we'll end up doing is dominating ourselves, and therefore don't deserve to have a business. That's just silly.
Yeah, it's going to get heavy too.
Totally. That's it. That's
good. I like that.
Despite the fact that I would beat you in a boxing ring. Okay, let's go. Next questions, comments, anything else I can do? Yeah. Anything else I can do? Go for it.